Hi guys, it's me Sam, and yeah, I'm still here. You're stuck with me. Sorry about that. Seriously though, I just want to give a big thank you to the warm reception you guys have given me since joining the channel. It really was a pleasant welcome, and just for that, I'm going to put a degree of effort into this first proper video of mine. Speaking of which, have you ever sat there and wondered what happened to those whose lives have been touched by the Doctor? We do get some certain insights from time to time, like that one scene from the Cry Fest that was the end of time, for example, but I'm talking about the more minor characters. The one-offs, the ones we don't necessarily think twice about once the credits roll. Thankfully, Doctor Who is not just a show, it's an entire franchise, stretching out over multiple media platforms that serve to expand the universe and in some instances, reveal to us the fates of characters that had very limited time on our screen. So regardless of whether these characters made an impact on the show or struggled to retain a space in our memory, we're going to be taking a dive into their lives after meeting the Doctor. And I genuinely found some of these quite interesting. So are you ready to find out the not so secret lives and fates of characters you may or may not care about? No? Well, tough, because that's what we're doing. So quickly before we start, I just want to give a quick spoiler warning just in case you might want to research into these characters yourselves. There, I can no longer be held accountable. So kicking us off, we have Margaret Slevene. I am not reciting her full name. Margaret, or Blonde, was a member of the Slevene family who featured as a two-time threat for the 9th Doctor in Series 1. When we last saw her, she was regressed to an egg after staring into the heart of the TARDIS, getting her wish to start all over again. She's dropped off to Raxacoricofallabatorius, but that's the last we ever hear of her. However, in the comic A Confusion of Angels. Strange, I just assumed to call them a flock of angels, but whatever. In A Confusion of Angels, the Doctor actually encounters Margaret again in his 12th incarnation. We find out that she's changed her name from Blonde Passimir whatever to simply Margaret, and was adopted by the Jingathene family when she was dropped off on Raxacoricofallabatorius. When he encounters her in the comic, the Doctor discovers she's taken advantage of her second shot in life by turning over a new leaf and joining the Shadow Proclamation as a detective inspector, a polar opposite occupation to the life of crime she once lived as Blonde. Whilst I personally didn't wonder what happened to Margaret after the events of Boomtown, I found this quite nice. It's great to know she found redemption, though the one thing I found a bit weird was that she chose to keep and wear the skin suit of Margaret Blaine, the remains of a woman she killed in her past life whilst pursuing a career of justice in this new one. Plus, how long do those things keep fresh for? And there's also that reality that the Doctor actively chose to drop Margaret back home with the skin of a woman she butchered and hollowed out like a breakfast kiwi, but horrifying implications aside, we next have Novice Hame. When we last saw Hame in the Series 3 episode Gridlock, she was taking care of a dying face of Bo, seeking redemption for crimes committed in her past as a Sister of Plenitude. Unfortunately, Bo snuffs it at the end of the story and Hame is left all alone. But this isn't the end of her story. In the webcast, The Secret Life of Novice Hame, when elderly Hame is on her deathbed looking back on her life, we discover that after the events of Gridlock, she became Senator Hame, and then Vice President Hame, before holding the title of Feline Imperator of the New Earth Order. She also finds out a big secret about New Earth, and like the face of Bo, she plans to reveal the secret to her final visitor, which just happens to be the 10th Doctor, who keeps her company on her last night and says his goodbyes before she passes away. I honestly recommend you listen to this webcast yourself because it's really rather beautiful, and not only does it give us a look at Hame's later years, but her early ones as well. It's fully voiced by the original actors, it's written by Russell T Davies, and it even features music composed by Murray Gold. It's on YouTube and only 11 minutes long, so I'll leave a link in the description below. But for now, we roll on forward to the Brigadier. So this won't be much of an eventful one, as we all ultimately know what happened to the Brigadier. By the time the events of the Wedding of River's Song come around, we know that he's dead. Then in the resolution of Death in Heaven, he becomes a Cyberman. I think most people didn't consider this the most respectful tributes to the late Nicholas Courtney and the beloved character he portrayed, myself included. I think Stephen Moffat's heart was in the right place, but like when you're about to order that sick wave of shots that will definitely incapacitate you at work the next day, you got to take a step back and think, am I doing the right thing? Thankfully though, we find out in the novel, An Ordinary Man, that the Brigadier wasn't too keen on living out his afterlife as a metal man, as told by some bloke called William Bishop, who lets us know that after saving his daughter and supposedly killing the Master, he self-destructs so he wouldn't be a potential danger to mankind. I think this brings a bit of needed closure, as I don't think any of us really liked the thought of this man who'd help protect the Earth from Cybermen become one himself. We can't change the fact that this did happen, but at least we know he refused to live out this fate for long. So next up, we've got Tasha Lem. Ah yes, Tasha Lem, that person. Yeah, I don't really remember much about this character apart from that she ran a space church and she definitely shagged the Doctor at some point.
Pull hard.
But did she do anything interesting after the Siege of Trenzalore? No. In fact, she died during the Siege of Trenzalore, according to the short story A Perfect Christmas. This was a little bit of a surprise to me, as we last saw her at the very end of the battle, just before the Doctor's about to regenerate. I couldn't find much on this, so I'm just going to assume that she died between bringing Clara back to Trenzalore and the Doctor destroying the Daleks, which would make sense as the Daleks were still attacking up to the point they were blown up, so I'm guessing she was just picked off by one off screen. Or she was vaporised in that massive shockwave. Okay, that was admittedly a bit of an uninteresting one there. So let's follow that up with something better, shall we? Larry Nightingale. Poor Larry. Trying hard to get with Sally, then only given the chance when they meet the Doctor at the end of Blink. I never got that bit. Things don't seem to work out for them though, as we can find out in the short story Life is Strange ... and Precious. Larry is now married to a woman called Natasha, who both go to see Professor Grey after requesting information about Wester Drumlins, telling him about the Weeping Angels. This is just one part of a series formatted as blog post, but I couldn't really find if it was official or if it was fan stuff. Regardless, I'll leave a link for you below. I think it's official. So a few things happen, like some bloke planning on renovating Wester Drumlins, and Rani Chandra from the Sarah Jane Adventures making her own investigation into the place. Eventually though, Larry's wife goes missing, and not long after, so does Larry. It's not explained what happened to him, but I think we can figure it out. It's quite tragic to think that Larry never truly escaped the angels in the end, that he eventually shared the same fate as his sister. Probably. Poor Larry. A fate he did not deserve. Unlike the fate of the Carrionite trio themselves, Lilith, Mother Doomfinger and Mother Bloodtide. In the climax of the Shakespeare Code, these three hags are thwarted by the words of William Shakespeare himself, along with their plan to make Earth the new Carrionite world. They were subjected to a rather horrible imprisonment, forced to spend their remaining days in their own crystal ball. But did you know they cut their eternity sentence short by managing to escape? In the short story Toil and Trouble, Sarah Jane Smith is being drowned on land in the same fashion as the angry beardy bloke who said no to love labour's won in the Shakespeare Code. Obviously this can only be the Carrionites doing, as it's kind of their thing, but I don't quite understand how they're able to use this power whilst trapped in their ball. Also, if they're able to do that, why haven't they tried it before on like the Doctor or something? This whole story just kind of confuses me generally, because for some reason it features the 4th Doctor as the current incarnation, and as we all know, the events of the Shakespeare Code didn't happen until the 10th. But confusion aside, Sarah Jane is unable to call for help, and at some point Harry Sullivan picks up the crystal ball and accidentally drops it. You twat. And obviously this releases the 3 witches into the TARDIS. Unfortunately for them though, their escape is quite badly timed, as the TARDIS is currently under attack from Reapers. So before the Carrionites can exact their revenge, the Doctor flips a switch which opens the TARDIS doors, allowing the Reapers in, and they proceed to devour them. Yeah, quite a brutal end for them to be honest, but probably for the best. Now, I've saved these next 2 for last because they're probably my favourite entries to this list. Not that I've ranked these in any particular order, I just found these especially interesting. So first up, we've got the Prime Minister of the Daleks. Do you remember him? That totally not ridiculous idea for an actual rank of Dalek?
Aye, mate. What's a good word?
You'd be forgiven for not remembering him, because I've certainly tried to block such a dumb concept from my head as well. But there's more to this Squid and the Tube story than I first thought. At the end of the series 7 episode Asylum of the Daleks, the Dalek race is left without any memory of the Doctor as a result of Oswin erasing all traces of him from the pathweb. But then, in the short story The Astounding Untold History of the Greatest Enemies of the Universe, the Prime Minister went insane trying to figure out the mystery of the Daleks' forgotten enemy. And it wouldn't be until the Siege of Trenzalore when the Daleks' memories of the Doctor would be restored. Upon realisation, the Dalek Prime Minister dashed himself against his glass case, which was the last straw for the Supreme Dalek. He deemed the Prime Minister unfit for service and exterminated him, taking over as the new leader of the Parliament of the Daleks. It's such a dumb name. And for a fun fact that's going slightly off topic, this Supreme Dalek is the very same that was birthed from the progenitor device in Victory of the Daleks, as well as the one that can be seen in the Asylum of the Daleks, and is even the same Dalek that can be heard taunting the Doctor during his final stand on Trenzalore. I just found this quite cool. And lastly, we have everybody's favourite smartass, Adam Mitchell. Literally the last person you'd expect to have their story expanded in other Doctor Who media. Adam, as a very brief passenger of the TARDIS, didn't part ways too well worlds we already know, attempting to steal information from the far future to bring back to his own timeline, which would have ultimately rewritten history. Of course though, he was unsuccessful and the Doctor kicked him out, but not before getting an info spike installed into his head, which his mum activates in the closing moments of the episode. Since the long game in 2005, this is the last we've ever seen or heard from Mr. Mitchell. That is, at least on screen. Over a series of comics starting with Mystery Date, Adam's mum dies a short time after he's booted from the TARDIS and left on Earth. This causes him to develop quite the grudge against the Doctor for preventing him from bringing back the technology that could have saved her life. He spends years watching the Doctor and Rose popping up through history until one day he's had enough, using his info spike to steal from corporate accounts so that he can fund his revenge. Adam went on to break into his old place of work, Van Statten's vault, and use Cyberman technology to lure out a time agent before stealing his vortex manipulator. With time travel now in his hands, Adam searched the universe for all the many enemies of the Doctor, one of which being the Master. This is when Adam discovered who the Doctor was, a Time Lord from Gallifrey with the ability to change his face. Adam went on to kidnap the companions of the 11 known incarnations of the Doctor at that point, including Rose. Eventually, the 11th Doctor was able to track Adam down via his vortex manipulator to his fortress, discovering his allegiance with the Master. In the final entry to this comic series, Endgame, all Doctors join up to save their companions and uncover the Master's plan to destroy their TARDISes, which would result in the destruction of the universe. Adam wasn't all too into universal obliteration and realised he had just been a pawn for the Master this whole time. He fought back and foiled the Master's plan, but at the cost of his life, apologising to the Doctor and Rose in his final moments before passing away. And that's the end of Adam Mitchell. I really wasn't expecting this sort of story from him, but you know what, I rather like it. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys enjoyed this video as much as I had fun researching and making it overall. Of course, so these fates and endings aren't necessarily canon, so make of these what you will. But personally, I'll be adding most of these to my personal headcanon as I find they're quite satisfying closures. Plus, I doubt we're going to see these characters again anytime soon. Anyway, that's all for now. If you like this video, please leave a thumbs up and please consider subscribing. And let me know in the comments if you found any of these interesting or not, or if there's a secret fate of a one-off character I might have missed. See you next time.